Have you ever wondered what kind of people attend the Christian Science church services? Well, I would know. I was born into the Christian Science church and religion, and after 40 years, I went my own way. And I feel that brought me back to a better understanding of Mary Baker Eddy's teachings, which the church and the religion are founded on. But I'm no longer in the church or the religion. So I went to Sunday school and church till I was 20. I think Sunday school, I think you graduate when you're 20. And then after that, I went to college, and I would occasionally go to church. And then I went to a Christian Science college for a year, and I would go to church there. And then on and off for the next, 15 years. And then I got back into it, started going every day and joined, and was on the board. I was a first reader for a short time. I was on every single committee: the counting committee, the Sunday school committee, the reading room committee, the house and grounds committee. And the only thing I don't think I worked in the children's room is all. On the lecture committee. And I can tell you it's a teaching based on the idea that we're a spiritual being, not a material being, that the belief that we're a material being was an oopsie, and was like a fall, was the fall that we read about in the Adam and Eve story in Genesis. And we got tricked by matter, by the beauty of matter, by the interesting things about matter, and we all of a sudden placed our identity into a matter body instead of, you can't really place your identity into a matter body, but we believed we were the matter body, and we're kind of stuck there. It's a dream, it's an illusion, and we aren't that. So it's an identity crisis. And Mary Baker Eddy discovered this, figured it out, figured everyone would be like, oh, I get what you're saying, and but it didn't happen like that. So a church and a religion was formed to worship this idea that we're not the matter body, we're the spiritual being, and we've got to unwind. And in order to unwind, that's really what Jesus was teaching us, is how to unwind from being the matter, believing we're the human ego, or the mortal, or the lower self, and getting back to an awareness of who we really are as soul, as spirit, as life, as all that is, both individually and collectively as one. And so when you go to a Christian Science church, you have a bunch of people who, like me, were born into it. They're like, I'm fourth generation. We have 5 generations in our family, and a lot of people that are still there, it's a generational thing. And so you'll have the one older gentleman who gets up on Wednesday services where you share healings and experiences that you've had as a Christian Scientist, and that one gentleman says, I've been a Christian Scientist my whole life, and I've never gone to a doctor. And that's it. That's and then he tells stories about his travels and how well they go because he's a Christian Scientist. And there's really not a clue what I just told you about what Christian Science. If you ask this person, what's Christian Science? You might, who knows what you're gonna get? Who knows? So there's that person. Then there's the really self-righteous, usually a female, sometimes a male. It actually goes both ways. And they're watching everything you say, and they're watching everything you do, and they're correcting you. If you don't since illness is part of an illusion, Mary Baker Eddy said it's not real, and it isn't real. It isn't real because it's part of the illusion that we fell into. But because we're in it, it does seem real and we do seem to experience it. But through this unwinding process that Jesus was teaching and that Mary Baker Eddy continued to teach, you can eventually wake out of that. And as you're waking up out of that, you can experience healings. There's, she did it all the time and she taught others to do it. It has mostly been lost. That kind of healing has mostly been lost. It's not happening, but a different kind of mental duration healing called treatments is occurring, which is a temporary healing. So a lot of the times we say, it appears that I'm ill, or it seems like I'm ill. But if you made a mistake and said, I'm sick today, this person would correct you. No, you aren't sick. You appear, you seem to be, and this person is like, if there's something that, like, our churches are governed by a very small manual, a very small set of rules. It's just a structure. It's a board that we vote for, and they have each church has their bylaws. But this person is constantly reading into, well, Mrs. Eddy would be rolling over in her grave if she knew what we were doing, if you knew what you were doing. And, the manual says you can only have a piano or a organ at church services. So if you have a guitar, this person might be saying, this isn't right, this isn't in the manual. And they're actually there to kind of make you feel like junk. They're not the nicest people, but they will really seem like they're nice. And but behind your back, they're judging you, and I think it's because they don't have any clue what Christian Science is. They think it's a bunch of do's and don'ts. Do follow all the rules. Don't break any of the rules. But they have no concept that she figured out where these like omnipotent, omniscient, immortal beings of pure love, but we fell into the belief that we're exactly the opposite, and that we need to learn to get out of that, and that comes from turning to God, turning to soul, turning to our real nature, and asking to be led out. There's the older gentleman who walks around like he is a practitioner. Our practitioners are people that heal, and then that people can call on to help with healing. And like holier than thou, but very loving and kind, and but behind it, really critical, really judgmental, really saying one thing and doing another. A lot of these people, are really critical of people who go to doctors. And then a lot of them will be going to doctors behind the scenes, but they want you to do better than them. So they don't ever tell you they're going to doctors. They're just criticizing if you do. They're the ones that just don't follow any of that and just kind of do their own thing, which is great. A few of those. One of the women in a church, and a group of women who ran a church of like 3 or 4 people, they had a gay guy join, or want to join, or he lived there, and he went, and he was and so they changed the bylaws so that gay people couldn't be members. So I mean, that happens. There's nothing in Christian Science that is anti-gay, anti-anything. It's just we don't we believe that as spiritual beings, we are everything. So we are both male and female. We are all colors, all nationalities, all, sexual orientation is really a mortal thing. And it doesn't really matter. The mortal stuff doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what color you are, what gender you are, what race you are, what sexual orientation. That in the mortal dream, we don't take a stance on it at all. But some people do, and they say it's Christian Science. You have the older gentleman who's taking advantage of the older women by borrowing money from them and not paying it back. And there are people that are hiding the fact that they're gay because they're afraid that they're going to get kicked out. And you have the church members that won't let gay people serve on, and you can serve on committees, but not on the Sunday school committee, or you can't serve in important roles. You have people that are taking medicine that are hiding it, so they maybe don't say anything, and they're just kind of in and out because they're so worried about being judged, because they think not taking medicine, they've been, all these people, the self-righteous ones are like, no, Christian Science, we don't take medicine. If you're gonna come to our church, like when I joined the church I joined, we had to answer, do you take medicine? Do you drink? Do you smoke? Do you, engage in like premarital sex or things like that? And that was never irrelevant to this truth that Mary Baker Eddy discovered. A lot of people like put all these things on Mary Baker Eddy and say, oh, she wanted you to be pure and perfect and all this stuff. And they're based on really some small things she said, like strong drink is not Christian Science. Well, in her time, it was, alcoholism was a big deal, and there was a lot going on, and you have to look at her time period. And as you ascend, meaning you come out of your identity crisis of thinking you're matter into recognizing yourself as spirit, some things do fall away. The desire for really, strong drinks might fall away. Alcoholism falls away. Any abuse of like drugs or alcoholism or, anything it's an abuse of it because it's not making you feel good. It's not making your family feel good. It's hurting yourself and others, and it's a coping mechanism. Well, it'll fall away. All that stuff will fall away whenever it's time. There's no rush. It will fall away as you progress and as you desire to get out of the matrix. So even like the use of medicine and stuff like that can lessen. Going to doctors can lessen as you like your identity crisis starts to wane, and you start hearing the things that are keeping you locked in the matrix. We all have like belief systems that are keeping us locked in the matrix, and those belief systems get revealed to us through our true being as we're willing to listen and hear, and then we can let those belief systems go, because most of the time we don't even know they're governing us, or they're like behind the seat, and we're just like in the passenger seat, like what's going on, and not knowing someone else is driving the boat or some other thing is driving. You're gonna have the Christian Science practitioners and teachers that are there that are ascending the ladder to some degree. Some of them are, some of them aren't. So they may or may not be helpful. There was a Christian Science practitioner where I got up and gave a testimony about what I was learning about the cross. And, when you're going through this waking up process out of the mortal self, it's a struggle. It's a struggle with it's like between both sides of your being, one that thinks it's mortal and one that knows it's not. And it's, Mrs. Eddy, Mary Baker Eddy referred to that as the cross, where you're giving up your strongly held beliefs of your mortality. And it's not easy. It's not always easy. Some of that is easier than others. So I was giving a testimony about my experience with the cross, and he got up right after me and corrected me in front of everyone and said, no, Christian Science has no cross, which it does. If you read her writings, it's everywhere, and it's actually on the cover of the book. So of her main work, Science and Health, the Key to the Scriptures. You have a lot of people who were born into it, and my grandparents, like my grandfather, lived in a small town, and there was one practitioner, and his family was not Christian Scientists, and he was a little kid, and but he had one foot shorter than the other, and a practitioner came, the Christian Science practitioner in town came and said, "Can I heal your son?" asked his mom, and she's like, "Sure." And he did have a healing where both legs were the same length. And so my great grandmother and my grandfather really had like this moment where they were like, wow, there's something here. So they became Christian Scientists because of something within them that said, there's something here and I like it. But then as the generations go on, you're born into it and you don't really recognize what the power of it and what it really is. And I think don't appreciate it because we're not having these like aha moments because we're taught it from the very beginning and we don't know anything else. So you have a lot of like me who they're just born into it and they're just going and they don't know anything else and they really don't know this. I didn't know the significance of it. And the ram in the thicket. Someone wrote a book recently which uncovers a lot of errors in the Christian Science church. It's called The Ram in a Thicket, Rebirth and Reform in the Practice of Christian Science by George Wadley. And one woman, she was blind, one of the stories in here, she gave a testimony in Wednesday service of healing, and she went out into the lobby and someone threw her up against the wall and said, never give another testimony until you've healed your blindness. So we grew up with a lot of that, a lot of these people. And this book uncovers all those errors. And as you're ascending, as you're winding out of the mortal dream, you do have to have all the errors uncovered. And so this book uncovers a ton of the errors in the Christian Science church. Church and religion. Not Mary Baker Eddy's teachings. The church and the religion. That's where we've gone off. There was one other example, but I can't remember. Anyways, that's some examples of the types of people you're going to meet if you go into a Christian Science church of today.